Ethically Speaking is a podcast of the Institute for Enterprise Ethics at the Daniels College of Business.
Hello, and welcome to Ethically Speaking, a podcast hosted by the Institute for Enterprise Ethics at the Daniels College of Business here on the University of Denver campus. Today we're going to talk about a very important topic in corporations and their boardrooms: building trust in the C-suite and with the board of directors. We just completed a roundtable discussion with about 25 independent directors and C-suite executives on this topic. This discussion was led by Mr. Bob Whipple, who is the CEO of LeaderGrow Incorporated, an organization dedicated to developing confident, capable leadership. Bob is also the author of The Trust Factor: Advanced Leadership for Professionals. Bob Whipple is a founding member of the Allied Trusted Business Experts, which is a part of Trust Across America, Trust Around the World. And he has been named as one of the top 100 thought leaders in trust each year since 2010. Let's have a conversation with Bob Whipple. Bob, let's start with a conversation about interpersonal trust in the boardroom among the directors. Now, these directors gather together maybe for 1 or 2 days, maybe 4 to 6 times per year, and they get together with a very full agenda, so there's not a lot of free time to visit with each other. Consequently, they have very little personal knowledge of each other. They're more just acquaintances who happen to share board seats. But in their roles of directors, they've got to have trust in each other so they know that the decisions they're making as a group are good, solid, valid decisions. So they've got to trust each other's character and each other's judgment and each other's expertise. And with so little contact and involvement and personal knowledge, how can they do that?
Thanks, Dan. It is a perennial problem, and there's no question that what I think is the mistake that's often made is overscheduling the agenda. You said, it's just a packed agenda. We've got all these things to accomplish. You got to remember that the social interaction, the ability of people to understand how to work well together because they know each other a little bit and have shared some war stories, that is as valuable as the other things, the fiduciary things and the ethics things, and it's as valuable for them to be able to understand and know each other as people to be able to work together. So when you schedule things to the point where there's no room for what you might call networking or just time to chat with these other folks and get to know them somehow, maybe in a social setting the night before or something, that's an essential ingredient. We should not just think of the agenda items. If the technical things, if we'll allow it, they will take up all the time. And what you've done is you've sacrificed the esprit de corps, which is so critical.
What I hear you saying is that if the directors can't spend personal time with each other, getting to know each other in a more intimate way, they've got to manufacture that. I've served on boards and these agendas just get packed and items get left off because people have to make planes. Are there any other procedures or techniques that come to your mind?
Sure. One is the notion that you can establish a rapport with an individual very quickly. It isn't something that takes a huge amount of time. I have a program about planting the seed of trust with another individual in 10 seconds. Even if there's no time to really socially interact, do some sort of icebreaker or something like that, I can understand that, but that doesn't preclude the ability of people to be able to connect intellectually and emotionally with another individual very well at a trusting level if you understand how to do it. So I have a program on the techniques and ideas that can facilitate that.
I presume that involves things like eye contact and
eye contact
and
is
an
one
appropriate smile.
Yeah, the program has I think 15 techniques, and eye contact is an integral part of it. The primary thing is that you give away your attitude by your total body language, and 90% of it you're not aware you're doing. So you can read another person, what's going on in the back of their mind very well once you understand body language and what the signals are. So one of the things for board members might be when you're interviewing, making sure that people have people's sensitivity and can read other people's where they're getting antsy or where they're feeling belligerent or whatever, and manage the conversations in such a way that you don't sacrifice trust.
It sort of takes self-understanding and self-appreciation, so you know how you're presenting yourself
Yep.
to do that.
It's a skill, and it can be learned.
Yep. With a lot of practice, like most other skills, right? Good. Thanks, Bob. Bob, in the discussion, roundtable discussion we just left, you used an expression, a phrase, which I think is one of your staple phrases, and it goes, "The absence of fear is the incubator of trust." And that really struck me, and I think it struck a lot of people. And then you went from there to saying one of the key steps to establishing trust is reinforcing candor. And it seems like those two things are closely related. Would you just kind of say some more about the absence of fear being the incubator of trust, and then how that leads to candor?
Yeah, the notion is very simple, and we all know it and have experienced it, that when you're afraid of the reaction you're going to get if you share your innermost thoughts, you're going to be circumspect, and you're not going to really share as much as you should. So in the corporate world, whenever I see an organization that has a trust problem, I look to see what's the fear level among people, because leaders who establish an environment where everyone knows that it's safe to say what I think is going on candidly, and know that rather than being punished for that in some way, I'll be reinforced for that. Those are the groups that operate with very high trust and are more creative, they get more done, and it just is a better way of existing. So they have more fun, you have less turnover, little benefits like that. So one of the things to focus on if you're a leader is, how safe is it here for people to really challenge me? It's something that I think I'm doing right, but another person isn't necessarily going to see it that way. How safe is it for that person to be able to bring up that point in an appropriate way at an appropriate time? I'm not saying do stupid things, but know that I'm going to take that in the spirit of growth, in the spirit of understanding, and in the spirit of growing trust. I'm going to make sure that that person is glad they brought it up and not sorry. If I can do that, then trust is going to increase and productivity is going to increase like crazy.
And the leader's job, one of the leader's jobs then is to reinforce this practice of candor,
right.
being candid in your conversations.
It's reinforcing someone when they are candid with you is the trick. And most leaders can't do it because they're coming at it from whatever the issue is, whatever the decision is that the leader's just made. The leader is right in his own mind. And therefore, if someone challenges and says, that's not the way I see it, then by definition, if I believe I'm right and I'm the leader, then I'm going to be defensive and I'm going to try to prove you wrong, which is definitely not reinforcing your candor, it's punishing you. So therefore, what I have to teach leaders is, okay, what you have to do is understand the power that you get when you can lower your ego response and consider the fact, what I do is I hand out I am right buttons to everybody in the room, and explain to the leader that the leader has to see that, hey, just because I think I'm right in the decision that I've made doesn't make it right in everybody else's mind. So therefore, when they come back and say, I don't think that's the way I would explain it, then I have to listen and I have to have a constructive conversation and make them glad they brought it up. Then trust will grow.
Well, that's such an important message, Bob, because I've been in a lot of situations where candor is a very, very rare commodity. Thank you very much. Let's change the scenario a little bit and talk about trust relationships between individuals and an individual in a group. How can you repair a trust relationship with an individual or a small group that has been damaged due to factors beyond your control, such as a confidential piece of information that has been leaked or an inaccurate news report regarding actions you are responsible for.
Now, the first premise here is to keep an open mind and not try to duck the situation. Something has occurred here that has damaged a precious commodity in your organization, which is called trust. And so what you need to do is, first of all, not try to escape the pain. You need to address the pain, and you need to hopefully frame it in a way that further deepens trust rather than makes people suspect you more. And so the worst thing you can do is try to pretend it didn't happen, try to blame somebody else, try to say that they don't understand the situation well enough and it really wasn't an issue. Those kinds of things will make it worse. What you do want to do rather than that is to, first of all, listen. The natural reaction when somehow feeling attacked is to talk. The proper reaction is to listen and to absorb and understand why they feel the way they're feeling relative to what happened. And then, if it's possible, to frame it up such that you can say, I made a mistake there. I should not have done it that way. Apparently, that wasn't my intention, but it certainly must have seemed that way to you folks. Therefore, I need to apologize to you. Apologizing, admitting a mistake and apologizing can be a very trust-building discussion, provided you haven't made the same mistake 3 times this week, or provided it isn't a sinister mistake. If it's an innocent mistake or something that you didn't see coming, well, you have a great way to react in a way that builds trust rather than destroys trust. So take that trust uneasiness and deal with it in a great way, and you can have a win rather than a loss.
Let me ask you this, Bob. Is there a difference in dealing with this situation under 2 different sets of circumstances? One is where you may have in fact screwed up, and you need to apologize for something you did that was wrong or inappropriate. The other case being where you in fact didn't screw up, but have been accused of such.
Certainly, if you, after investigation, you uncover the fact that you messed up, then you go and you say, I admit that I made a mistake, I should have done differently, and I'm sorry, and let's get through this together. Yes, that's right. But then in the case where it's a misunderstanding, and we're in the process of listening, I'm saying, okay, they don't really recognize what has happened here, let me explain the situation. But when you do that, you have to be very careful to not frame it up or word it in a way that tries to feel like them that you're trying to weasel out of it.
Good. It's a good distinction to make. Finally, what is the best way to regain a trust relationship when someone you have had great confidence in appears to have let you down, and you do not think you can trust them in the future, even though they are an important part of your senior team?
In a personal one-on-one situation, when it happens that there's a trust betrayal at a very high level, it's basically you can't believe the person did what they did. There's a process here. The first process is, number one, don't procrastinate. Don't think that you can just it will get better with time. It's a dead fish, and it will smell worse tomorrow than it smells today. So get over it and take action. And the action is to address the other person and say, I feel something has happened here within the last week or whatever time frame, and I don't feel as good about our relationship as I did before. Do you sense that something has shifted? And so you get an adult conversation going, and you're being candid with the other person that says, I value our relationship. I trust you, or did trust you, and it seems like there's been a betrayal. And what I'm interested in is, do you feel the same way? Let's talk about the circumstances. And whatever it is, my objective here is to gain back a situation to where we're stronger than we ever were in the past. And that's the process. So we work together to find out what would have to happen for us to get back to not only where we were last week, but stronger than where we were last week. And if the other person will buy into that logic and you invest some time and energy, then you can, instead of thinking of a trust betrayal as a catastrophe, you can think of it as an opportunity.
Lemonade out of lemons,
That's
right?
That's right.
Ethically Speaking is a podcast of the Institute for Enterprise Ethics at the Daniels College of Business.